हे श्याम सुंदरा हे साई सुंदरा हे श्याम सुंदरा हे साई सुंदरा परतीपुरीश्वरा हे साई सुंदरा परतीपुरीश्वरा हे साई सुंदरा श्याम सुंदरा हे साई सुंदरा हे श्याम सुंदरा हे साई सुंदरा नील मेघ सुंदरा नीरजलो चना नील मेघ सुंदरा नीरजलोचना सुंदरा ब्रह्मांड नायका हे साई सुंदरा हे श्याम सुंदरा हे साई सुंदरा परतीपुरीश्वरा हे साई सुंदरा हे साई सुंदरा हे श्याम सुंदरा हे साई सुंदरा ब्रह्मांड नायका हे साई सुंदरा ब्रह्मांड नायका हे साई सुंदरा 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 हे
विठ्ठला पंढरीनाथ विठ्ठला
पंढरीनाथ विठ्ठला
पांडुरंग विठ्ठला पंढरीनाथ विठ्ठला पांडुरंग विठ्ठला पंढरीनाथ विठ्ठला पांडुरंग विठ्ठला पंढरीनाथ विठ्ठला
धारा हरी विठ्ठला देवी भवानी जगत जननी जगत जननी मंगलकारिणी कारुण्य रूपिणी मंगलकारिणी कारुण्य रूपिणी नारायणी देवी नारायणी नारायणी देवी नारायणी महिषासुरमर्दिनी अम्बे भवानी महिषासुरमर्दिनी अम्बे भवानी देवी भवानी जगत जननी मंदहासिनी आनंददायिनी देवी भवानी जगत जननी मंगलकारिणी कारुण्य रूपिणी नारायणी देवी नारायणी महिषासुरमर्दिनी अम्बे भवानी महिषासुरमर्दिनी अम्बे भवानी देवी भवानी जगत
राम रहीम को भजने वाले तेरे पुजारी बाबा।
राम रहीम को भजने वाले तेरे पुजारी बाबा।
राम रहीम को भजने वाले तेरे पुजारी बाबा।
राम रहीम को भजने वाले तेरे पुजारी
तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तुम्ही हो गीता, तुम्ही रामायण, तुम्ही हो वेद कुराण। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। राम रहीम को भजने वाले तेरे पुजारी बाबा।
राम रहीम को भजने वाले तेरे पुजारी बाबा।
तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तुम्ही हो गीता, तुम्ही रामायण, तुम्ही हो वेद कुराण। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। तेरा नाम एक सहारा। राम रहीम को भजने वाले तेरे पुजारी बाबा।
నాకు నీకు డైరెక్ట్ కనెక్షన్ ఉంటుండాలి.
There's direct connection between you and Bhagavan.
మన సన్నిహిత సంబంధ బాంధవ్యం ఎవ్వరూ తెంచడానికి వీలు కాదు.
None can break this permanent, intimate, connecting
మీరు
link.
ఎక్కడికన్నా పోండి,
You may go
అక్కడ
anywhere.
ఇక్కడ ఎక్కడ చూసిన ఒక్కడి సాయి మక్కువై ఉన్నాడు.
You may see here or there, anywhere, only one Sai is there.
మీరు ఏ గ్రామం పోయినా కూడాను, ఎక్కడ పోయి మీ ఉద్యోగం చేసినా మీ వెంటనే జంటనే ఇంటనే ఉంటాను.
You may go to any village, you may take up a job anywhere, but Bhagavan is always with you.
ఆ భావాన్ని మాత్రం మీరు భద్రంగా చేసుకోండి.
Treasure that feeling, that
నా
thought.
వెంటనే ఉన్నాడు
Swami is with me.
అనేటువంటి భావాన్ని దృఢం చేసుకోండి.
Strengthen that thought more and
నువ్వు
more.
ఎక్కడికి వెళ్ళినా నీ నీడ వస్తుండాలి కదా.
Your shadow follows you wherever you go.
నేను నీడనే
Bhagavan is your shadow.
నాట్ షాడో, నీలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఒక దీన్నే దాన్ని నిరూపిస్తూ ఉంటాడు.
Not merely shadow, he is indweller, he is in you.
కనుక ఐ ఆమ్ యూ, యు ఆర్ మై.
Oh, Swami says, I am you and you are mine.
ఈ రెండు సంబంధాన్ని భద్రంగా పెంచుకోండి.
Treasure this feeling more and more, strengthen this.
Arms of the lotus feet of our dearest beloved Bhagwan Baba. Jai Sai Ram. I don't know about you, but I've been looking forward to this for a long time now, because it's been 8 years or more since we had our last retreat. And for those of us who've actually looked at the program, and I'm hoping each one of you's got a goodie bag that's outside and you looked at the program, absolutely action-packed. So my advice, like I've done this morning, lots of black coffee throughout the day. We will be here and getting on with things. Right, nice to see all of you, full crowd here, lots of things to do. I don't want to spoil your appetite. I don't want to, mess up things here, because you will be listening to lots of things which I think at the end of the day you'll go back and say, what a day it's been. So, a few housekeeping rules that I have to go through. There's 2 fire exits, that side and the ladies' side, and both lead to the exits to the outside of the building. There should be no fire alarm, because all the tests have been done today, so we are hoping that if a fire alarm happens, it is a genuine alarm and not a test alarm. And if that happens, just run. Okay, the toilets, if you imagine behind me here, the ladies and the gents' toilets, I'm sure some of you have made use of it this morning. Fire assembly points. In the unfortunate event we do have a little fire and we have to assemble outside, before you enter the main building, there's a little roundabout, and that's about 30 yards from the building. That's our fire assembly point. First aiders. There are 5 first aiders. I'll just read out the names. If you're in trouble, just come and see me and I'll direct you to them. First is Artika Mistry, Amit Patel, Bhavna Patel, Deepika Taylor, and Tarsika. So, as I said, once again, if there's any issues, just come back and we will direct you. Lastly, without saying the obvious, can we have all the phones on silent, because we want to come and enjoy the program here. Now, my pleasure to introduce you to our National President, Pratap, who will give you a little introductory talk. Jai Sai Ram.
Love, and let it flow in fullness of devotion to thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for thee. I offer my loving pranams at the divine feet of our beloved Bhagwan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Distinguished guests, zonal coordinators, respected elders, brothers, sisters, children, Jai Sai Ram. I would firstly like for all of us to warmly welcome our chief guests, Brother Anthony Griera and his wife, Sister Mokshana Devi. Brother Anthony is the National Country President for Spain, and Brother Amey, who's a member of the Prasanthi Bhajan group, who's come from Prasanthi, and his wife, Sister Babita, who've all traveled many miles to be with us at this retreat and have sacrificed their own valuable time to be with us. So can we please give them a round of applause? It is with immense joy and gratitude that I welcome each and every one of you to this Sri Sathya Sai Organization UK's national retreat. After, like Jitesh Bhai said, that this retreat is after a very long gap. And we've gathered here from various corners of the UK and have come together as one family in the divine presence of our beloved Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Our theme of this retreat is Sai Always Inside, which is a profound truth that Swami resides in the hearts of each one of us. He's guiding us, loving us, inspiring us in every matter of our lives. As we embark on this retreat, let us remember that this gathering is not just an event, but an opportunity to deep dive, to rediscover and reawaken the divinity that is within all of us. Let our interactions be filled with love, our discussions with wisdom, and our meditations with peace. This retreat is for reflection, rejuvenation, and renewal of our spiritual commitment. In this serene environment, away from the hustle and bustle of daily life, we have a unique opportunity to turn inward and reconnect with the divine light that Swami has ignited within us. It is a reminder that no matter where we are, what challenge we face, and how internalize the theme. Let us participate with enthusiasm, knowing that each moment spent in Swami's remembrance is a step closer to realizing his divine presence within. As we gather here in his name, let us remember Swami's message: God is you, above you, below you, around you, and beside you. I encourage each and every one of you to use this retreat as an opportunity to deepen your connection with Swami, to listen to the voice of love within, and to reaffirm your commitment to his teachings. May this retreat be a source of inspiration and transformation for all of us, helping us to live each day in the awareness that Sai is indeed always within us. Thank you for being here today and contributing your energy, love, and devotion to this sacred gathering. Together, let us make this retreat a memorable and spiritually uplifting experience. Jai Sai Ram. I would also like you all to listen to a short address from our Zonal President, Mr. Philip von Deitlen, please. Thank you.
Hello, Sai-Ram. My name is Phil, most of you know me, and I have the privilege and honor to give you a little sort of introductory to this upcoming retreat, and I'm happy to do that. Unfortunately, I can't be there in person because my duties lead me to Italy, but I do wish to say a few words to put you on the path on this amazing retreat that Pratap and his team have developed. The topic is Sai Inside, or the inner Sai, one of my favorite topics at all. And there are two things I would like to say to you. First of all, I was lucky enough back in the day to have direct guidance from Bhagavan what to ask for. And I know there are a lot of stories of what you should ask about liberation and this and this and the other thing. But by the end of the day, he said you should ask him for two things: guidance and transformation. And I have made it a habit over the past almost 30 years to make it a little personal sadhana to ask for transformation, and not important in itself, but for your improvement, for your growth, for your inner development on your path and your journey towards Sai and to divinity. It becomes more interesting and a little more comfortable. So that is something I would offer you or invite you to practice and check out for yourselves. And the other thing is that we've talked a lot about media and social media in the past few days and weeks. And social media is sort of the opposite of what Swami taught us: discernment, detachment, inner vision, control of the senses, clearing of the mind, and all that. And I know we're not going to put social media back in the bottle, but I think as Sai devotees, it is important for us to find a way to deal with all the emotion and commotion that social media can bring into your lives. especially the young people are probably frowning a little bit. But the idea is that you take some time out, maybe in the morning or maybe in the evening, and just have what I think you call svadhyaya in Sanskrit, which is sort of reflection, and you just clear your mind a little bit. It's a good thing to do in the morning, and to set an intention of what you would like to do in the day. Like set the intention that you want to treat everybody with respect, or if you have certain tasks to perform, it's good to be aware of how you want to do that and what you want to do and how you want to embody the human values that Bhagavan gave us. And it's helpful to do this in the quiet moment. I know usually for many people, early mornings are not the most preferable time for this, but the old yogis did it in the morning, and it works extremely well in the morning before you had your coffee, before you switch on your smartphone, because your mind is a little bit asleep and you have more direct access to, let's call them the higher faculties. And the other thing I find very useful, which is also something Bhagavan recommends, it's not in the code of conduct where you have daily meditation and the study of his teachings and scriptures, but it's something he recommended often on in person, and that is the self-audit. I believe up on the path to the meditation tree, there's even a little stone plaque or whatever, where it says that self-audit is a very useful thing. Now, audit usually, if you think of taxes, is not a pleasant thing unless you're an accountant. But self-audit basically means you sit down in the evening, and you can even do this with your family as a group, or with your spouse, with your partner, and just like reflect on the day, on how you behaved, how you were successful in embodying the human values, and also accept that when you slipped a little bit, when you fumbled a little bit, and set the intention to do better. And I find it a very useful purpose and a very useful tool to also become aware of what I have done correctly and successfully. That gives some confidence, and also some awareness of what you can improve and which areas you can develop, or maybe need to develop, to be a better business partner, a teacher, partner, dad, mom, whatever. Because self-transformation and improvement and growth is essentially what we're here to do. And I'd like to finish with one of my favorite metaphors from psychotherapy, and that is the old saying, like, what do you get when you squeeze an orange? And of course you get orange juice because that's what's inside. You cannot put something inside, or you cannot get something out of something that's not in. So Swami tells us that we have a divine spark, the soul, the Atman, and so when you squeeze yourself, hopefully you don't get orange juice, but you get human values and human being and humaneness, and essentially love and divinity, because that's who and what we are, and that's what we have to develop, and that's what we have to squeeze out a little bit, and sometimes that takes some effort. So I wish you well on your journey, with your inward journey, with the Sai inside, and I catch you on the rebound. All the best. God bless you. Saram, and goodbye.
Brother Shitu to come forward. He's our zonal coordinator, and share his thoughts with us.
Sairam, everybody. It's a real joy to welcome each and every one of you. You know, I would like to congratulate you for taking the very difficult task and making the decision to give up your whole weekend to be here at this very spiritual retreat. I would also like to thank Pratap Bhai and his team for restarting the National UK Retreats. Now, I'm an old man now, but I've been coming to national UK retreats ever since I was a teenager. And you know, there's one beautiful thread that runs throughout all of them. When you come to retreats like this, something quite amazing, a fantastic transformation takes place in each one of you. Now, I could write a book on my experiences of national retreats, because the wonderful miracles, the wonderful leelas that are about to take place in your life is going to be amazing. And I promise you that from this day onwards, your life is going to change. Because 48 hours, you're going to be thinking about Swami, contemplating the Sai within, and he's going to be changing you. So well done for making that decision. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank those countless souls that like Pratap and his team, worked so hard in having national retreats. It takes me back to the crew days, Uncle Bal and his team. It reminds me of the Newbury retreats that took place, Amey and his team, the Isle of Wight retreats. Now, UK retreats have been taking place since the 80s, and we're so lucky that we have such a rich, diverse culture of so many wonderful activities in this country. You know, from the 7th century to the 19th century, India has been graced by a beautiful bhakti movement, a time when great mystics like Tulsidas, Kabir, Surdas, Tukaram, Mirabai roamed whole of India. They were not merely poets, they were divine messengers who used the power of words to connect hearts to the divine. They traveled far and wide, spreading the message of love, devotion, and surrender to God, making spirituality accessible to everyone, regardless of caste, creed, or status. Today, we are blessed to witness a similar journey, a journey led by a remarkable young man whose heart burns with the same flame of devotion that is fueled by the saints of old. This young man, Amey Deshpande, has dedicated his life to spreading the stories, leelas, and teachings of our Bhagavan. Amay is not just a speaker, he is a vessel of divine inspiration. He carries with him the timeless stories of Bhagavan, stories that have the power to transform, to heal, and to uplift, just as the great saints of the Bhakti movement did long ago. In a world where we are often caught in the chaos of our daily lives, the Leelas of God serve as a balm for our weary souls. They remind us of the eternal truths of the importance of love, compassion, and faith. Listening to these stories is not merely an act of devotion, it is an experience that connects us to the divine, a journey that brings us closer to the essence of who we truly are. Today, as we prepare to embark on this spiritual journey with Amay, let us open our hearts and minds to the timeless wisdom that he brings. Let us allow his words to guide us, inspire us, and connect us to the divine presence that resides in each one of us. Jai Sai Ram.
Respected elders, brothers, sisters, and the few children who are amongst us, Jai Sai Ram. With Swami's grace and blessings, we are very fortunate to have with us Brother Amey Deshpande for this weekend. He'll be sharing his thoughts with us twice today and twice tomorrow, so we are really and truly in for a treat. But before we go on, let me say a few words of introduction for those who, the very few who may not know of him. Dr. Amey Deshpande hails from Maharashtra and was a student of the Sri Sathya Sai Primary School in Prasanthi from 1990 to 1993. He acquired his bachelor's degree in commerce from Bangalore University. He then pursued chartered accountancy. He has worked briefly with Hewlett-Packard in their financial services center in Bangalore. During this time, he was a member of the Brindavan Bhajan group, and he was also a Brindavan Servidar. In 2003, he enrolled for the MBA finance program at the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Thereafter, at Bhagavan's behest, he registered on the MPhil program and was awarded a gold medal in 2007 for distinction. He completed his doctorate studies in 2016 in the area of corporate strategy from the Department of Management and Commerce, Prasanthi Nilayam. During this period, he also taught students of the MBA program, subjects including strategic management, corporate financial strategy, management control systems, and the awareness program. He deems it a privilege to be a member of the Prasanthi Bhajan group. He has sung in the Divine Presence in music programs and cultural presentations put up by the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. In 2017, the Sri Sathya Sai Centre for Human Values, CHV, was established in Prasanthi Nilayam under the auspices of the Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust. It has been mandated to carry out research and training into the teachings of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dr. Amay works as a resident fellow. He is now involved in developing and conducting training programs in Swami's teachings, including for genres of professionals and organization office bearers. The CHV is involved in research and conducts training programs, courses, workshops, and exhibitions. He has also participated in various Radio Sai, now Media Center, satsang programs, and regularly speaks on various forums, nationally and internationally, for the organization's members. I've been very fortunate to spend a few hours over the last couple of days with Brother Amay and Sister Babita, and it's been wonderful to hear his anecdotes and stories of Bhagavan, and I'm sure we're all going to be in for a treat this weekend. Brother Amay's first talk of this session is going to be his own journey to Sai. So without any further ado, could I please ask Brother Amay to come to the stage, and please give him a warm welcome. Jai Sai Ram.
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Invoking the divine presence of our ever-loving Swami and offering our loving pranams at his lotus feet, To the Swami in each and every one of our hearts, my loving Sairams to all of you, and welcome to this national retreat of UK. It's been an absolute pleasure for the past 48 hours to be here, to absorb Swami's love that flows through each of your hearts. And it is quite overwhelming to kind of stand here, especially after, I would say, an over-the-top, some few words by Brother Shitu. So as I was listening to that introduction, my mind went back to a little story that Swami would often tell us. And so let me start with that. Now, this is completely unscripted. And this is thanks to Brother Shitu's introduction and also Brother Shakti's introduction. So let me start with this story. Hundreds of years ago, as it is always said in this part of the world and in our country, right, which is because our country is that old, our countries. There was a sculptor who used to create beautiful sculptures of the Lord, different forms of the Lord, and they would travel far and wide to all parts of the country, the kingdom. And he was most famous for his beautiful sculptures, statues. Once, he is commissioned to create a beautiful sculpture of whatever Lord that you want to choose, let's say Lord Vishnu, by the king himself. The king of the kingdom has heard about him, and he creates this beautiful sculpture of the Lord, and he works really hard. It's the most exquisite, statue. And now what would happen is, after the statue would be ready, to transport the statue from his place to that location, whichever location it was, he had his favorite donkey. A donkey on whose back the statue would be kept, and the donkey would take it. So for the first time, this beautiful sculpture was placed on the donkey's back, and now for the first time, the donkey was moving towards the kingdom itself, the royal palace. So it was a very exciting moment for the donkey as well, right? For the first time, he was seeing the capital city and the hustle and bustle of the bazaars over there. And as the donkey starts to approach, all the people in the bazaar start looking at this exquisite, beautiful murti, the statue of the Lord on the back. And the moment they see such a beautiful murti, they start throwing flowers, at the murti. And kumkum and chandan and all of that, sandalwood. And the donkey starts to believe that it is all for itself. And the donkey starts to believe, starts to say, finally my time has come. After all these years of hard work, right, now people have started recognizing me, right? And, so there are people who are falling flat. They're doing Sashtang Namaskar. They are like on their knees. And the donkey is saying, oh, it's okay, relax, guys, right? And eventually, he reaches the royal palace, where the king and the entire royal family is waiting to, welcome the donkey. And the donkey says, oh my God, I did not expect this much, right? And, you can imagine there must be like beautiful Vedic chants, and all the royal priests must be there to, take the Lord in. And the donkey is now getting so embarrassed, thinking that, this is too much. It's just relax, guys. Just chill a bit, And eventually, in a ceremonial procession, the Lord is lifted off the donkey's back, and it is taken into the palace. And the moment the entire retinue goes in, there are some guards who are hanging around there, and they look at the donkey, and the donkey is still feeling very good, right? And then they just say, hey, come on, get out from here now. And the donkey is shocked, because just a few minutes before, the donkey had it was the center of everyone's attraction. It was the apple of everyone's eye, okay? And here is now the donkey being unceremoniously just wished away. And now the donkey is walking back from the bazaar, And the same set of people are, whacking him and couldn't care less for him. And now the donkey starts to believe. He says, how fickle-minded is man? Just a few moments ago, it was the same donkey. It's me, guys. Have you forgotten? And so the donkey reaches back to his master, the sculptor, and he says, only maybe in these in these kind of folk tales, donkey can speak. And so the donkey asks the master, what's up? Why? How fickle-minded is man? And Swami explains that the master tells him, you donkey, you will always be a donkey, because all of those adulations and all of those epithets and all of that decoration was not for you. It was for the Lord who was sitting on your back, right? Whenever I hear over-the-top introductions, I feel like a donkey. Right? We are nothing. And in fact, Swami ends the Chinnakatha by saying, you're all donkeys. Why? Because as long as God is seated in our hearts, the world will give us adulations, the world will give us, kumkum and chandan and all of that. But let us not forget, the moment the Lord leaves us, we are big zeros. We are nothing but donkeys. So frankly, I don't want to be a donkey. So I'm going to offer all of that and all of the successes and the failures and the achievements that we have at his lotus feet, right? Because without him, we are nothing. We are here only to celebrate his presence in our lives. So having said that, I was given a topic for this talk, and so let me jump straight into the topic. So once again, let me take you a few thousand years ago. We just celebrated the Krishna Janmashtami, and so I want to paint a story in front of you. And while I do this, I request all the brothers and sisters to take yourself back into this beautiful story. Many thousands of years ago, a flutist, a man who would make flutes and play the flute, he lands up in the village of Vrindavan. Vrindavan, the village, the little town of Lord Krishna. It's early in the morning, and probably like a Leicester morning, nice chill, beautiful breeze, right? So if you want to really experience that, just step out. And under a tree, he hears the most beautiful flute ever that he has heard in his life. And he's absolutely mesmerized by the divine music that he's hearing. And so he is so taken aback, he wants to know where this music is coming from. And so he starts to search for the source of this music. And all he sees is a little blue-eyed boy, blue-eyed boy, running away from him. So he has only ever seen the back of the Lord. And so smitten he is by that experience that eventually he settles down there, and he can hear the very tone of the flute that had emanated from behind the tree. And so he makes the mission of his life to create a flute that can create or produce that kind of a tone. You're understanding what I'm saying, right? He wants to create the perfect flute. And so he starts. Every morning he will take, the best bamboo that's out there. You know how a bansuri or a flute works, right? It's just nothing but a bamboo, and he starts to make the holes. And after he completes making a flute, he puts it, he blows into it, and it's not that sound. It is not that magical sound that he had heard. And so day in, day out, week after week, month after month, he is wanting to create, that perfect flute. And the moment he hears that, the flute that he has created is not perfect, he just chucks it away, right? So just imagine there is now a mountain pile of flutes, which are the rejects, right? The useless flutes. There's a mountain pile of them in his backyard, possibly. Okay, and he's still trying to create the perfect flute. And the only purpose of him creating the flute is an opportunity to give that perfect flute to the Lord if and when he ever sees him again. In the meantime, Lord Krishna has moved on, right? Krishna has gone from Vrindavan, he has gone to Mathura. Today he's the king of Mathura, and years roll by, probably a decade, right? And all the people in the village start to believe that this is a madman, because everybody comes and asks, what are you doing? And he says, I'm trying to create the perfect flute. Okay, and he says, man, but you've just tried for years together and you've never been able to do it. He says, I think I will be able to do it, right? And people would look at the mountain pile of, reject flutes, and they would say, this is the mad flute man, the man. So he gets a label, right? And now he has a little boy who is about the age of Lord Krishna when he had seen him, about 10 or 12 years old. And he hears the news for the first time that Lord Krishna is coming back to Vrindavan to spend one evening. Okay, and so now he realizes that this is his moment. If he misses off on this opportunity to create the perfect flute and to hand it over to the Lord, then probably he will never get an opportunity again. And so he works doubly and triply hard, okay, creating more and more flutes, and every single flute is a reject. Eventually, you can imagine, the Lord has come because he's a king. There's a big retinue, right? So there are lots of, horse carriages running around, and he's trying, desperately to make the perfect flute. Okay, and you can imagine his son, little boy of 10 or 12, thinking, what's wrong with my father? People making fun of him because his father is a madman trying to create the perfect flute. And it is said that the Lord had scheduled to be around till about 12 midnight, and then he would return back. The Lord was coming there to meet the Gopikas, right? To spend some time with them after so many years, catch up on the good old times that he had in Vrindavan. And this man is busy making, and at about 11:45, about 15 minutes left for the Lord to leave back. And he's just finished creating one flute. He puts it on his lips, and it is the perfect flute, right? The exact same tone that he had heard a decade earlier has now emanated from this flute. So you can imagine how excited he is. And now he wants to give this flute, he wants to gift this perfect flute to the Lord. And so what he does is he calls his son, and he decorates his son, he dresses up his son exactly like how he had seen Lord Krishna a decade ago. He puts a little peacock feather and a pitambaram, and he says, my child, run as hard as you can, and somehow make it to the Lord and tell him that this is the perfect flute. And so this boy, he's also happy that finally this ordeal is over, right? My father, has done it. And so he runs, okay? And it's now about 12 o'clock in the midnight, about to reach, and the Lord is also, everybody's telling, all the ministers are telling, sire, it's time to go. We got a long journey up ahead, and you have protocols to follow, right? So let's go. And Lord Krishna is saying, just give me a minute, I'm waiting for someone. Okay, and just at that moment, this little boy reaches the Lord, and obviously everybody stops him. And the Lord says, no, come in, I'm waiting for this boy. And this child enters, and he just presents the flute to the Lord. Okay, and the Lord takes it, puts it on his lips, and blows out. And there is the most mesmerizing music that has ever been produced. And everybody enjoys it because after so many years, the Lord has played the flute, right? The whole thing gets over. He gives back the flute to the boy and says, give this as my gift to your father. And eventually the Lord leaves. This boy comes back home to see his father kind of, just leaning himself against the wall of his hut. And he says, Daddy, we did it. The Lord took the flute in his hand and the Lord played. And the father says, tell me more. Tell me what happened. Okay, and the boy narrates the entire incident of how the Lord took the flute and how everybody was absolutely enchanted by the music that had come out. And his father just sheds tears of joy. And then he says, Daddy, Daddy, you should have been there. You should have been there to see it. Why did you miss it? And then the father says, I missed it because I was supposed to be taught a lesson. Because the moment the Lord touched to his lips, that flute, the thousands of rejected flutes in his backyard all stood up. And he was surrounded by a symphony of the most beautiful music that he had ever heard from each of the flutes over there had produced the same divine tone. Because the Lord does not want the perfect flute. Whichever flute the Lord touches to his lips creates the perfect music. The reason I tell you this is because the Lord does not see our ability, he sees our availability. We don't have to be the perfect flutes. We just have to make ourselves available for him to make us the perfect flute. That is exactly what we have done this weekend. We have made ourselves available to Swami. And every single day of our lives, if we are able to simply make ourselves available, he is the one who is going to make us capable. We don't have to worry about whether am I good enough. As it is said, he does not call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And therefore, my many, many prostrations to all of you to have made yourselves available to the Lord this weekend and from now onwards for the rest of your lives. Each one of us must aspire to be that flute that can blow his music through each one of us. So how does he choose us? Or do we choose him? It is as it is said, if you choose the Lord chooses you. Swami says, you take one step towards me, I take 100 towards you. So we have to take that one step towards him, right? So since the topic was, all of us are flutes now, right? So even while I talk about how this flute, this Amey flute, kind of made himself available, what I would request each one of you to do is to think about your own first moment with Swami. It is very, very important. Once it was said, one of the brothers was telling us, one of the sirs in fact, Swami was asking him, what did they have for lunch? And so he said, Swami, we had gulab jamun for lunch. It's a beautiful sweet. It's one of the most popular sweets. And then Swami said, was it good? He said, Swami, it was beautiful. Because actually Swami had sent the gulab jamuns to the hostel. So obviously they have to be the best. And then Swami said, did it give you happiness? Right? And he said, Swami, it's delicious, absolutely. It was just melting in the mouth. And then Swami said, what is the difference between happiness and bliss? Was it blissful or was it happy? Right? What is the difference between bliss and happiness? Have you ever thought about it? Right? And this sir was telling us that he actually got, an inner kind of revelation. At that moment, he said, Swami, eating that gulab jamun gave me a happy feeling, but talking to you right now is a blissful experience. So what is the difference between bliss and happiness? And then Swami went on to say, that is correct. Swami said, what you're saying is correct. Right? So what does it mean? Right? Anything that gives us pleasure, of course it gives us happiness, no doubt about it. Probably like the beautiful breakfast that we had this morning, the poha, it definitely gives us happiness, right? But you see, happiness is that which lasts only that long. If a week later I was to think about the joy that I got from eating the poha, it in fact makes me upset that I don't have that joy today. Correct? So if you've had a beautiful 5-course banquet, right? You think about it a month later or 2 months later, forget the joy. You don't get any joy from it. Actually, it makes you feel sad that you're missing out on that. And that is happiness. However, that event in our lives, which any time we think about, it can only give us happiness again, that is bliss. And that's what happens in our experiences with Swami. Right? We may have had, like, I was just hearing all the beautiful experiences of the brothers whom I had the privilege of spending some time with. And each of them is like a mountain. It's like a treasure chest of, people coming in the 1960s and in the 1970s. And I'm wondering, what am I doing here in UK, Probably Swami sent me all the way here to listen to these experiences. There are people who have seen Swami in East Africa. The only time Swami stepped out of, of the country, they have seen him, right? So even after 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, even now when we think of those moments, it still gives us joy. You see, that is bliss. And so while I narrate my instance, or how I came to Swami, yes, you can treat it as just another experience. But the better way to benefit from that would be to think about how you got your first experience. It's very important that we do this in our spiritual sadhana. To think about how Swami entered my life, because that is ever fresh. And obviously, many times, in the humdrum of our organization activities, unfortunately, many times I feel, Swami, did you create this organization to help us or to impede us? Right? Organization in the beginning, it tends to help all of us. When we take our baby steps in spirituality, it's beautiful to be in an organization where you have elder brothers and sisters holding your hand. Eventually, you become an elder in the organization. Okay? And, we will talk about it maybe tomorrow, more about the organization. Right? Today, we'll speak about Swami. Right? So every other time when you feel, that there is something which is hindering our progress, go back to the first time that Swami entered into our lives. It'll always give us bliss. Right? So having said that, how did I come? Fortunately and unfortunately, and I'll tell you why unfortunately, I was born in a Sai devotee family. Why I say unfortunately is because I always, kind of complained to Swami that, Swami, you got me free. It's like buy two, get one free. So you just had to get my parents and you got me free. You didn't have to do much. You didn't have to put in any effort to get me. That's not fair, right? Do something to show that you're God to me. Like, he didn't do anything, to prove that he was God, right? And so I always, there are so many devotees who walk up to me and they say that, 1972 was that moment. After that, my life was never the same again. And I'm like, oh, shucks, I wish I had that. Because by birth, I was born in a Sai devotee family. And all my mother told me, right, she was my first Bal Vikas Guru. She was my Guru, my Bal Vikas Guru, and continues to be my Guru. And she told me that this person is your hero. So she always, kind of told me that don't have to have any other hero. What do we know about God, right? At that age, what does God even mean to us? So my mother never introduced me to Swami as God. He said, this is your hero. This is the greatest superhero that you can ever have in your life. And so to me, Swami was always my superhero. Swami always was my rock star. He was my rock star. He would also look like a rock star, right? With all the hair and, right? And every time we went for darshan, right, I would look at my rock star. The person who was stepping out of the interview room was not God to me. So for me, very early in my life, everything about Swami was like, how we would idolize someone. So the way his hands would move. And, I would come back to the room and I would be like, oh. By the way, just to let you know, we see Swami doing this. And often people have tried to interpret what this means. right? And people have asked Swami, and there are so many versions of why he does this, right? So there are the most kind of high-level explanations of what this means. Some people say that when he's doing this, new universes are being created, new galaxies are being created, by Swami. So that's like the really mysterious ones. But I'll tell you the ones which kind of resonate with me the most, which is oftentimes when Swami would come into the Kulwant hall and, he will just look at all of us and then he'll be like this. It'll be like, oh my God, what kind of specimens do I have? Right? Every time he walked in, he was hoping to see a Mirabai and a Tukaram over there. And then he would look at an Amey Deshpande and like, oh my God. Wrong timing. The avataric blunder. And this is what I used to think often. I think, when Swami would actually, emote so much when a Tyagaraja Kriti was being sung or a Meera, Bhajan was being sung, he would emote. He would, you could literally see him cry. And I used to think, why are you crying now? You should have actually come when they were around. It would have been a win-win situation, right? You had them, they had you. What better? Now you're just stuck with idiots like us. And that's why this made a lot of sense to me at that time, like, oh my God, I'm stuck with these guys. So obviously that movement of the eye, the hand, the movement of his eyes, when he would walk, you can often see that in his videos, right? He will be looking and those piercing looks. And the beauty of Swami was he could be absolutely livid with the person on the right. And the person on the left wouldn't know a bit of it. It would be just compassion flowing through for the other person, right? Only God can do that. Switch off, switch on, right? And so all of that, and when Swami moved, especially on the sand days, back in the 80s, when Swami moved on, I'm sure you've walked on beaches. You know how difficult it is to move on sand, right? You don't get a perfect gait. Like if we were to move on sand, we will be like this. But when Swami moved, it was like he was on rollerblades. He would just glide across. And that was like, and especially, in those days, it used to be long robes. The robes would flow, and so you couldn't see his feet. And so you did not know what was going on below. For all you knew, he was really on rollerblades, And so he would glide. And for me, all of that was like, wow, this is my rock star. And so I would come back home. Now it's very controversial to say this, but I would try to imitate him. I would have my own, you understand why I'm saying controversial, right? But I was like the first gen who tried to do that. I would have my own little imaginary devotees, sitting, waiting for my darshan. I would step out of the room, look at my imaginary devotees, bless them, wave my hand. This actually happened when, back in those days. Now very controversial. So, back in our Samiti, in our center in Bahrain, my father was working in Bahrain, in the Gulf country. And there were about 5 odd families that would do bhajans. This was in the early 80s, 1980, 81. And one of the most I would say like the most challenging thing about our center was that our center president was a very strict person, even with 5 people, right? No children were allowed to sit for bhajans. All the children were, kind of dumped into one room because he wanted absolute discipline when the bhajans were going on, right? Because you know what happens usually when children sit, especially little children sit for bhajans, they will have their own alap, suddenly like, it'll start off. So no disturbance. So all the kids are dumped in a room and everybody just, only the elders sit. However, there was one child who was allowed to sit with the adults for bhajans, and that was me, because I loved bhajans, right? So I would be silently sitting and I would get a pat on my back. Oh, good boy, very good boy. And so, even back then, I had like stars on my, the discipline stars. You have 1 star, 2 star. So I was like a 2-3 star general or something like that. Okay, so equipped, the reason I'm telling you this is, equipped with those little stars, imaginary stars on my shoulders, I went for my first darshan, my first recollectable darshan. Until then, too small, to remember what it was to see Swami. I think this was 84 or 85. My first recollectable darshan. And, in those days, back in those days, what did we want when we went for darshan? More than Swami we seeing Swami, for us good darshans were when Swami saw us. Correct? Like if we sat back in the 25th row or 26th row, and we would still be able to see Swami, right? But then when we would come out and they would be like, how was darshan? How was darshan? Today when we think about it, it's such a stupid question, right? How was darshan? We just saw God, right? But it was a good darshan when He saw us. Darshan actually means we seeing the Lord, right? But in those days, he saw me because I was sitting in the front. So that was a good darshan, right? So we all wanted the good darshan, right? And so what did we want? Even before darshan, we wanted token number 1. Basically, when we all lined up outside, we all wanted that token number 1. That was the only prayer we had, right? Early in the morning. It was not about mukti, bhakti, shakti, none of that. Swami, just give me token number 1. Rest of it, just leave it to me. Right? And so we were all, kind of lining up, and we every day praying for that. And usually it's the thing about those days, darshan, was that your fortune was not decided by you. It was the person who was sitting in the first row decided your fortune. Right? So what you would typically do, I'm sure, I don't know whether how many of you have been in those days? A lot of you, yes. So you can resonate with what I'm saying. We would actually go and look at the most devotional looking guy. Right? Just quickly look at who's the guy who's praying the most. That person. Go and sit in his line. Because, our fate was decided by how devoted he was. Right? So you just put in your hand into that magic box, and whatever you removed was the token, decided the fate of the rest of them. And so every day we would get double-digit tokens. Okay? 12, 19, 21. Every day praying. Finally the penultimate day. The next day we are leaving. The penultimate date, we are sitting over there. And typically the person who would pick out this, if it was like a good number, you could feel his excitement. His excitement would run down the entire line. Like he'll be like, right? So the devotee who was sitting that day, he kind of raised and said, 1! And all of us like, yes, we did it. And so by then, you had identified the vantage points in darshan, right? You would see which are those places where Swami 100% went. And then there were those probable, points. And then there were those highly improbable points where he would never go, right? So you made all your strategic decisions about going and sitting. So we had identified, me and my father, and so we ran in and we took a vantage point. And now we are all waiting for darshan to begin, right? Imagine me, this is my superstar. I'm not waiting for God. I'm waiting for my rock star, right? My rock star is going to come, and I'm thinking of all of this. And then comes a person wearing a blue scarf and says, Sai Ram. You know who I'm talking about. I always call them angels responsible for our spiritual growth. Swami has kept one specifically for you and me, right? However, however strong our connection is, he will come and test. He or she will come and test how strong our connection with Swami is, right? And so one of the sir comes and says, Sai Ram. Okay? And, this is an unknown, this is a known secret. Sai Ram is one word in our part of the world for all, we community. We don't need another language. In fact, we don't need another word. Sai Ram is enough to convey every emotion we have. Right? You have the sweet Sai Ram. Hey, Sai Ram. Which means, hey, how are you? Long time no see. Right? And then you reach Prasanthi Nilayam and you'll be, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. Right? So it could be a variety of emotions conveyed through just Sai Ram. And so this is one of the sterner Sai Rams that I got. And so I responded back with Sai Ram. Now, what I did not know is that children were not allowed to sit in the first row. Right? Typically because when Swami would come for darshan, the child would get hyper and start running all over the sand. And sometimes would run up to Swami and pull out one letter from his hand and all that. So children were asked to sit in the third row. That's the first row for them was started from the third row. Okay? And so basically this Sevadal brother wanted to tell me, Sai Ram, get up from here and go back to the third row. Now I thought he was able to see the stars on my shoulder. Because I was a certified disciplined boy by my center. Don't forget the stars, okay? Every point in the story is very important. So I was like, Sai Ram, not able to see the stars? Okay. And I mean, this is all, I'm just making this up, okay? Trying to basically tell him, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those children who get up, I'm a very disciplined guy. I just sit there and do my thing. And obviously that was not allowed, right? So I was not moving. And at that time, so the next best thing is like, this guy is not moving. Where is his father? Right? And obviously my father is sitting a few paces away from me. And that day I understood the futility of human relationships. Because my father was like, na mata, na pita, like, my father is lost in his own contemplation. And like somebody's like, whose kid is this? And my father is like, I don't know. Is this my child? Not my child. And so I was physically lifted. And there used to be at the entrance of the darshan, where everybody entered into the darshan ground, there used to be arches in those days, if you remember. And the farthest most arch from Swami was the place where the naughtiest kids were thrown. It was like a dungeon, okay? I was thrown into that, okay? No, don't worry about it. It's about 40 years ago. I mean, but I appreciate your... So I was thrown into that, and you can imagine how humiliated I was, even at that age. So much ego, right? I got up there, I started screaming. Imagine, pin drop silence in the darshan grounds in Prasanthi, pin drop silence, everybody's waiting for Swami. Okay, and I start screaming. I still remember what I screamed. I said, this is not real Swami. Not real Swami. I'm shouting. Okay, and for some strange reason, I still don't know why I was shouting that, but I said, this is not real Sevadal. Okay. These are not real Sevadal. This is not real Swami. I'm shouting. Okay, and lo and behold, what happens? Me and my father both are thrown out of the darshan ground. Okay, like, that day my father would have looked back, oh my God, why did I produce this guy? Okay, so we were unceremoniously thrown out of the darshan grounds. Okay, both of us, because, get your son in order, chuck out. Right, and the moment we are thrown out of the darshan grounds, the music starts, Swami comes out for darshan. So that day, we stand outside and we have the darshan of Swami. So from the first line inside to the first line outside, we always wanted a first line. Right? And so we just stood out there and, I was, kind of crying. And my father was like, don't cry loudly. Otherwise, from here also, they'll chuck us out. Do you want to be chucked out of Prasanthi Nilayam itself, the ashram itself? And so in those days, if you remember, after darshan, after one round of darshan, Swami would pick a few devotees for interview. And the rest of the crowd would go to finish, their breakfast and what have you, all the other ablutions, and come back for bhajans. Right? So typically about 6:45 in the morning, Swami would come out. By 7:15 in the morning, the darshan would be over. And from 7:15 to about 8:30, 8:45, the interviews would go on. And 9 o'clock, Swami would come out for bhajans. And so everybody would go. Since it was our penultimate day, my father said, hey, you know what? We didn't even get an opportunity to sit inside the darshan grounds. Suddenly the 12 and 19 and 21 tokens were better than where we were currently. So let's just go and sit inside. Let's just forego breakfast. and let's forego, because this is our last day, so let's just sit inside. And so, there would be a smattering of a crowd. There would hardly be 50, 60 people, because Swami will be inside. And so we went inside, nobody else there, hardly a few devotees. And that day, the interview gets over by 7:45. Okay, the door opens and Swami steps out. Okay, and Swami just looks in the direction in which I was sitting. Okay, and now there is nobody. And Swami starts to walk straight from the interview room. He walks up to me. Okay, dear brothers and sisters, think about how Swami walks into your life, right? He walks up to me, okay, and now there is no Sevadal, there's no first line, there's no nothing. Okay, and the Swami comes up to me, and the first words that I remember, he said, "Hey, kai ko chillata hai?" That is in Hindi, why were you shouting? Right now, I didn't know that sound waves travel so slowly. Because I was shouting at 6:30 in the morning. This was 7:45. Right? But here was Swami coming up to me and said, "Hey, kai ko chillata hai? Why are we shouting?" And for me, I didn't know what to respond. Why? Because my rock star was standing in front of me. Right? And eventually he patted my back. He says, "Good boy, take namaskar." Right? And so I got namaskar. You see now, the point why I'm saying this is, we ask for something. Right? And oftentimes there is a delay, and many times there is even a denial. We think that there are delays and denials. But actually, God is just wanting to give us better and more. I had just wanted a close darshan of my rock star. What I got was darshan, sparshan, and sambhashan. I got, I had the moment to touch him. I had the moment to speak to him, or rather, he spoke to me, right? And so I got much more than what I asked for. And oftentimes in our life, when you look back at each of your lives, you will realize this. That when you don't get what you want, it is only because God wants to give you more. All we need to do is to hang on. Right? Especially let us be very happy when Swami does not give us what we want. Because then, now he's going to give us more and better. Right? Let us actually celebrate, right, when he does not give us what we want. Such a counterintuitive thing, isn't it? But that is what the magic of God is. So that is how he entered into my life. And that day, I realized that God can walk into our lives and he can stay there forever. Because once in Vrindavan, he was telling a bunch of students, boys, you have only two options. One is that you allow me into your heart, or the second option is I will break in and get into your heart. You have no choice. Why? Because you made yourself available to me. Right? So all of us, I'm sure we all have experiences of how either the Lord forced himself into our lives, or we allowed the Lord to enter into our lives, and let us celebrate that. Of course, those moments are always the honeymoon period, right? When God walks into our lives and it's all hunky-dory and it's a bed of roses, okay? And eventually then the Lord says, okay, this is not it, right? Now the journey starts. This is not the end of the journey. This is the beginning of our spiritual journeys. And so just help me with, if there is a clock out there, because I can talk for a really long time. And I don't want to overshoot my 10 minutes here. Only 10 minutes? So then maybe I'll jump a few years, and maybe I'll wrap up with this. Right at the beginning, what Bhagavan spoke to all of us was like an eye-opener for me. There was a miracle that moment. Because what I'm going to now tell you is exactly what Swami said over there. So, obviously, years rolled by, joined the institute, had many beautiful experiences of lots of interaction. And at that time, all I wanted to do is, to kind of step out of the portals of Swami's institution with a degree. That's all. My expectations were not that high. So one day in January of 2004, Swami is sitting in the Bhajan hall, And he's asking a bunch of us, what are you doing? What degree are you doing? So he asked me, he would refer to me, he would call me Bangalore. He'll just call me Bangalore because I was from the Bangalore Sevadal. So he said, hey, Bangalore, kya karta hai? What are you doing now? So I said, Swami, MBA. And then Swami said, iske baad kya karega? What will you do after this? And so I just said, Swami, I'll be with you. After this, I'll be with you. And then Swami said, very good. PhD karo, do your PhD, stay with Swami, that is PhD karo, Swami ke saath raho, mauj mein raho. Right? That is, do your PhD, stay with Swami, be happy. Actually, mauj is a very, kind of a very, very colloquial word. It's like have fun, And so I was like, wow, this is very rarely do you get Swami to tell you what you're supposed to do. Maybe I'll take a quick diversion over here and tell you about one other brother. So this was Brother Gopal Indreshwar. I'm giving you the name as well because Brother Gopal is the grandson of the Rajmata of Navanagar, whose land it is on which Brindavan is currently situated. She was the one who offered it to Swami. So Brother Gopal was an MBA student and he wanted Swami to tell him what he should do next, right? So in his mind, he wanted to be, he wanted to be a civil servant. He wanted to join the IFS, the Foreign Service. But he also wanted Swami to tell him what to do, okay? And so one day Swami comes up to him and said, what are you doing now? He said, Swami, MBA. What will you do after this? He said, Swami, whatever you say. Okay? That's typically how we are trained to speak. Whatever you say, whether we know the meaning of it or not, Swami, whatever you say. Swami said, very good. Do IFS. Join the Foreign Service. She was like, yes, like that's what I was thinking about. And that's what Swami has told me. Right? And so he walked back thinking, this is amazing, Couple of days later, Swami says, what are you doing? So Swami, MBA. What are you going to do after this? Swami, whatever you say. And Swami says, I think you should join teaching. From Foreign Service to teaching. Okay, change of plans, I'll become a teacher. Couple of days later, okay, Swami, what are you doing? Swami, MBA. What will you do after? Swami, whatever you say. I think you should join your family business. Now, rather than giving him clarity of what he was supposed to do, Swami is confusing him with a new profession every couple of days. Right? And so he was, he was now completely confused. He had no clue what he was supposed to do after MBA. And so one day, his family members had come and so Swami calls all of them in for an interview. And Swami asked them, what is he doing now? Okay? And they all said, Swami, we're all thinking he's doing his MBA now, but we don't know. Swami, MBA. Says, so after this, what will he do? Swami, whatever you say. Okay, and at that moment, Swami was going to give him his fourth profession. Okay, which is when he said, Swami, before you say something, right, why are you confusing me? Isn't the avatar's job to give us clarity? Right? Why are you confusing me with a new profession every other day? And then Swami tells him, I am not confusing you, I am reflecting your confusion. There is confusion in your mind, and I am only merely reflecting the confusion that is there in your mind. Because I am just a witness. Okay. So if you're just a witness, thank you for that information. How does it help me? Right? We want our Swami to guide us. Right? We seek his guidance. We don't want a mirror. Many times we don't want a mirror. Right? And then, so he said, Swami, but aren't you supposed to give me clarity on what I want? Right? Aren't you supposed to tell me what I'm supposed to do in life? And then Swami said, he actually, he said this to Swami and Swami told him, I will give you clarity. Do you have the strength to follow it? Right? Oftentimes, you see, in our hearts, the Lord is telling us what we are supposed to do. But then there is this little, the guy with the red horns. Our mind only. Usually what do we think? The voice of God, usually is like in Morgan Freeman's voice. right? The voice of God is always like a bass baritone, my child. Right? It's always like, my child, do this. Right? Walk on the path of truth. Like in Morgan Freeman's voice. And usually the mind of the voice, as shown in movies and cartoons is it's this little quirky kind of, voice which says, don't do this. Right? You see, that is how it's in the movies. But in our own hearts, it is our own voice. Both are our own voice. And we don't know which is the voice of the conscience and which is the voice of the mind. Right? And so if we are able to train our minds to listen to the voice of the conscience, that is the kind of key to success. Right? So why am I telling you this is, I'll come back to the January 24 when he said, do your PhD, stay with Swami and have fun. Now PhD, you see, for Swami, PhD, you know what it meant? That's right, permanent head damage. PhD was permanent head damage. So anybody who did a PhD, right, would be permanent head damage fellow. And MPhil, right? MPhil is Master of Philosophy. One day, I was sitting in the Bhajan hall and he was asking everybody, what they were doing. And I was doing my MPhil at that time. And Swami asked, what are you doing? And I said, Swami, MPhil. And Swami said, what? What degree is that? So I just said, Swami, Master of Philosophy. And just when I said that, I was thinking, oh my God, whom am I telling? Master of Philosophy. Right? The source of philosophy is sitting over there and I'm telling him I'm doing a master's. Master of Philosophy. And then Swami looks at me and said, Philosophia, full philosophy it is. Swami would break philosophy into full loss. Full philosophy, right? That is only when you empty your mind can I feel something into it. So lose your mind. That is one kind of interpretation of philosophy. It could also mean that when you actually study philosophy, all you get is full loss. And I've actually heard a lot of people who do proper philosophical studies, they actually kind of, they're highly confused individuals at the end of their degree. Right? So, so he did ask me to do my my PhD. Of course, there's another beautiful, kind of full form of PhD, and that is pure-hearted devotee, right? So the purpose of our PhDs must be to move from permanent head damage to pure-hearted devotee, right? And so in that interaction, as I was sitting, with him, he once again asked me, after a few minutes, what are you going to do? So Brother Gopal's story kind of flashed into my eyes. I was like, I'm not going to make that mistake again, to keep asking him whatever you say. So I just said, Swami, just now you said to do PhD. If you permit, I'll do PhD. Otherwise, anything that you say. And then Swami said, PhD, that university will give you. Will you do my degree? Okay, and that was like, now this is serious stuff, right? Will you do my degree? And I was like, literally chills running down my spine, right? Swami's degree. I knew that this is not now an ordinary conversation. Like, this is not just the chancellor of the university speaking. This is the chancellor of the universe speaking, right? Will you do my degree? And so I just closed my eyes, in front of him, and I said, Swami, you know whether I'm capable of doing, your degree or not. And so I just said, Swami, if you please, if you choose. And then Swami said, do it. So I said, Swami, you have to give the strength for it. And then Swami said, hey, don't put it on me. Right? You do your duty. No, duty chi. In Telugu he said, do your duty, the strength will automatically flow. And it was a few years later that I had written a letter to Swami. And maybe I'll cut that story short because we're running out of time. But I had written a letter, and usually we don't have anything to write in a letter, right? Just a bunch of complaints, right, to Swami. So, but I wouldn't write anything. I would just write one letter to Swami every year. Because Swami would often look at students and say, he would look at us and he would say, Kitna deta hai means I'm giving you so much, then also you have a letter to give me. Leave something for the devotees. Typically he would finish with the devotees, and then by the time he comes to the students, he will have these letters in his hand, and he will just reject our letters because he'll be saying, my hands are full. Right? And so then he'll say, what is it like? I'm giving you everything. I'm giving you free education. You guys are having fun with me. And then also you have something to ask. So I had kind of told myself that I'm not going to bother Swami with my little tin and trash. So I will write only one letter a year, which is on my birthday, because that day he can't tell no to me. I mean, after all, that day is my important day for me here. Right? On our birthdays, right? You've experienced that, right? Imagine you have an argument with someone, and then somebody comes and says, hey, today was his birthday. We say, I did not know, yaar. Actually, we should not be speaking badly to anyone any day, but at least on their birthday, we should not speak badly to them. Right? So I would always feel like Swami should not disappoint me on my birthday. Right? So that day I can legitimately sit with a letter. Right? And so, of course, that Swami did not take the letter that day. Long story, he took it 4 months later. Right? And I would just write a few my prayers in that. And I have some beautiful prayers that I have picked up from different speakers over the years. One is, Swami, you are the thinker of my thoughts. You're the doer of my deeds. You're the speaker of my words. Guide me, guard me. I am in you. You are in me. I am you. You are me. Help me realize that. In fact, the very first line of Loving God, written by Professor N. Kasturi, starts with, this time, once again I had failed, and I had to be resent back to this primary school called the world. Because the whole idea is to graduate from this world, graduate from this samsara, get liberation, isn't it? But because we fail, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, right? So I used to love that. So every time I would say, on my birthday, I would say, Swami, once again, I have failed, and so I'm back in the school, right? Just help me go out of this. And so 4 months later, he took the letter and he opened it and he starts to read that letter in front of me. Okay, so he's reading out. Just imagine, I'm feeling very nervous because I have written all sorts of big things, in the letter. And now Swami is reading out that letter to me. And then he shows me that line which says, I am you and you are me. Help me to realize this. He underlines it with his finger, that line, and then he pats me on my chest and says, Idi bhadramga penchuko, means develop this feeling every day. And then he folded the letter and put it back into my pocket and said, keep this letter with you and contemplate on this letter every day. I have brought that letter with me even today, after 2008 it was, and I still have the letter. It's in a pretty dilapidated condition right now, but I thought I'll share this letter with you because this was the letter. As you can see, this is exactly how he had folded the letter, right? And so in that line which says, so this is how I had written the letter, right? And he says, you are me and I am you. Let me realize that, O Lord. So he had underlined these 2 lines over here, right? And he said, develop this feeling over and over again. Dear brothers and sisters, all of these retreats and all of these sadhanas, the end point is only for us to know, exactly as Swami mentioned, I am you and you are me. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Koti Koti pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Swami. My Koti Koti pranams to you all. It was truly inspiring to hear from Brother Amay and his journey to Swami. We are deeply grateful for your sharing. Thank you for enlightening us with your experience. Story of a donkey We don't want to be donkey. I'm really don't want to be donkey. But, we don't have to be able, we have to be able, and we must be available at the Lord so He can make us capable. Of course, we need to be instruments of Swami. Let us give another round of applause of Brother Amay. Now I have important announcements to make, so please listen carefully. We will soon have a short break, and afterwards, please make your way to the workshops at 11:15. Kindly note there's no drinks allowed in the rooms, so please finish them before you go. And let's be prompt so the workshop can start on time. All rooms are downstairs. As you exit from this room, on the turn right and the turn first left, all rooms are there and they're all on your badge, so numbers are on your badge, so please go in those rooms. This is the first workshop of 3 you will be attending for next 2 days. Today's workshop is on what is religion, what is spirituality, where do you experience external spirituality, and are there any restrictions posed by external spirituality? This discussion will set the scene for our retreat theme, which is Sai Inside Always, Sai Always Inside. After the workshop, we'll have a lunch followed by outdoor activities. Cricket for brothers will be in the front page. All spectators available and welcome. Rounders and a sports day event for sisters and children at the backfield over that side. And scavenger hunt for everyone from group to 4 or 6. Meeting point would be at the picnic table right opposite on the front page. There are garden games as well, so sisters, do not worry about anything that we have planned for you as well. Those games also on a concrete area right opposite that side after the front page. And you can choose to walk around as well. It's entirely up to you. Please ensure to return to the main hall by 2:50 p.m. so we can begin our afternoon session promptly at 3 p.m. and to listen to our brother Tony's speech after that. So thank you so much and enjoy your break and enjoy your workshop. Jai Sai Ram.